welcome to the newest test subject edition of Fleekazoid. This is officially season 3. Doing this is season 3 behavior. But yes, Merry Christmas to everybody. This is going to be a Christmas special. Yes, we're reliving the golden deceiver today because 2024 can't end without me telling the story. This is going to be a live stream turned into a video podcast. This is about something that happened back in October. It was my October canon event. And at the time, it seemed like it was going to be a lot longer than 1 month. But it ended like almost immediately after the election, if not the same week as the election. So that was quite the week for me. But this is going to start from the top in October when I put myself back on the dating apps after boy sobriety of almost a year. Dun, dun, dun. Happy holidays. Yeah, this is going to be a Christmas horror story. Well, actually, I think we're ending the year pretty good, considering that it's not ending with this dude. This is a happy story. It starts off hopeful, then it takes a turn into horrifying. It ends happy because if you think about it, we escaped. We escaped the clutches of somebody who was doing a lot of lying and fronting and finessing. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to the video version. If you're watching this on Spotify, if you're watching this on my live stream, hi. Yeah, it's gonna have the Twitch animations on the screen. It's the chat reaction. But if you can't see what's on the screen, this is still an audio experience. And this is new for me. So I'm a little nervous, but let's just get on with the story. Maybe within the second week, probably like October 10th, I had decided to just start swiping again on the dating apps. I think I was watching like a lot of content where people would end up getting romantically involved. And the content was like making me feel like I was getting FOMO. I was like, wait, I want to be cuddled with. Like, I want to boo. Like, this looks fun. This looks cute. It was really making me feel a certain way, a way that I don't feel now when I see that type of stuff. So I was coming from a place that was already not good, okay? This is how desperation begins. I am so persnickety on dating apps. Like, it takes so much for me to actually want to swipe on a person. But just because it takes a lot does not mean that this guy had a whole lot going on. For me, what I'm looking for is everything filled out. Like kids, smoking, drugs, drinking, religion. I want to see what type of relationship they want. I want to know if they're monogamous. I want them to have their horoscope sign and like put where they work. I want them to put their political affiliation because sorry, I'm not going to date a man, like just straight up point blank period. And yeah, I think I also want to see like new current photos, things that look current and recent. And all of these things, it's asking for a lot. For the most part, a lot of guys get the auto left swipe. I will go straight to a man's bio before I even try to focus on what he looks like, because if I don't see all of those things filled out or I see something that I don't want, I'm already like, no, I'm not even going to sit there and be sad about the way that you look. Like, goodbye, you're hiding something. You're sketchy to me. I was already coming from a desperate place. So this man didn't have his political affiliation listed. But I just kind of hoped. I was like, there's no way this man would be a and look at my atheist liberal profile and swipe right on me. But I liked how he looked. Like, he kind of looked like someone that I had a crush on back in middle school. And even though he probably wouldn't be a lot of people's type, he was mine. Okay? So we'll say that. Areas that I was immediately compromising with this dude, he didn't have his political affiliation listed, and his workplace said manager at somewhere. I don't like when they're hiding where they work. All I can tell you is that he has a reason for this towards the end. I swiped right on him because he swiped right on me first, which is another thing with Hinge. I don't want to be the one swiping right first. I just don't trust men. Sometimes men will like literally like you just because you swiped on them first and they just like getting attention. They're in their Drake soft boy, I should be cherished era. One thing I did do, I sent the first message, even though he technically, I don't know if he just liked a photo of mine, but I think I sent the first message. It was just like, hi. Like, I really wasn't putting too much out there. I was dipping my toe. I was just trying to really facilitate it happening because that's, I guess, how desperate I was moving in this moment. Oh my God. I realized as I'm telling the story of like a thirsty woman. But that, I guess that's, you have to be willing to be lied to in order for the lies to be successful. And actually, that's something that I learned. In this story, I was lying to myself and I didn't know it at the time. I was lying to myself about my standards, him passing my standards. But something that kind of made it easy for me to believe the lie that I was telling myself was that in the first 5 minutes of standing and waiting for a table at this restaurant, the first thing he says is, oh, by the way, I'm not a and I was like, oh, thank God, because girl, sometimes they'll just show up at your door and they'll be like, grr? Like they'll try, they don't, and they get offended. They act like they're a protected class. And by the way, I'll probably I feel like I have to like bleep this out when I actually put the final edit up because they're so sensitive. You know, the ones in my personal life will find their way here somehow, some way. It will be an issue. Anyways, I'm not saying you can't vote that way. I'm just saying I'm not going to you if you do. I'm not going to purposely attach my life to you. So moving on and moving forward, immediately he lays out that I'm like, oh, okay, thank God. Like there goes one of my red flags out of the way because he didn't have his political affiliation listed. Then as I'm sitting down at the table, I'm asking him about his job situation. I was like, why did you put manager at somewhere? Like that looks suspicious. And he was like, does it? He's like, oh, well, I'm actually a manager at this one grocery store. And I have to be very vague about it online because last time I put it up, some woman stalked me and she would pop up at my job. And like at the time, I had a lot of sympathy for this situation because I've dealt with stalkers. But I also know, and this is the other part where I'm lying to myself, there is a part of me that knows that like scammers and schemers will try to use sympathy and guilt on you. So it's like, of course I'm hiding. Yeah, I'm hiding. Like I got stalkers. I have people who are way too invested. What I realized though is that he wasn't telling me that she was crazy. He was just describing crazy actions and leaving it to me to feel bad about it for him. I believed it. I believed him when he said that. I felt bad too. Not bad that I asked, bad that he was ever put in a situation because yeah, relatable. But also at the same time, I'm the type of person like, if you're an investment banker or whatever the hell you are, like a general manager, I really don't need to know the specific establishment. I just need to know that you are for a certain field, like banker at investment fund or general manager at restaurant. Like I would let it be that vague and I would be okay with it because I really wouldn't need to know the specific tea. He wasn't lying about the field and he wasn't lying about the position, but he was lying about the store. And even this, I wonder how much of it I'm going to have to bleep out by the time I release the final edit because the internet is sleuth and there really doesn't take much. So you guys really can take a crumb and run 100 miles with it. So anyways, other things that people should know about this guy, he is 37. I am 30 years old as of today. And I asked him on the date, I was like, what do you think about our age gap? Like, what do you think about being 7 years apart? And he was like he looked kind of like, about it. And I was like, the why would you even, if you even felt even a little bit like that, why would you swipe? Why would you pursue the opportunity? Why would you even have the age range open? You know what I mean? That should have been a red flag in retrospect because when I saw his actual type, babe, the women that I saw that he was messing with, they're not 30. Add 20 to that, okay? Also, another thing too, he reveals on the first date that him and his ex are 7 years apart, but she's 7 years older. And that his family gave him a lot of flack for their 7-year age difference. And he didn't tell me too until like maybe the third or fourth date, that she had 2 kids who were teenagers. But what he does tell me is that she was a Pilates woman instructor that he met at the gym that they both go to 2 years ago, and that they were dating for 2 years. I mean, honestly, they're consenting adults, so it's really none of my business. Also, depending on how you take care of yourself, like I've seen some pretty damn fabulous 40-year-old women. Like I've seen 40 look so good on women. I'm not even questioning the way that she looks. I'm not even questioning like anything that I should be at this moment. What really needs to be the question, which I came to find out, was that he was looking for sugar mothers. Okay. I don't know if he thought I was going to be a 30-year-old sugar mother or if he thought he was going to like come in and move in. Some of the gifts that he was giving me makes me have that vibe. Were they his kids too? No. And to my knowledge, he doesn't have kids. Also, here's one of the lies. Spoiler alert, I'll reveal one right now. He was acting like he didn't want kids at all. Babe, the silent part was with me. Because apparently, what I came to find out was that he breaks up with this woman and he tells everybody it's because she can't have kids with him. She won't have kids with him. And he wants to have kids one day. Now, what I realized in the retrospect, in the grand scheme of things, this is a guy who really liked to pretend like he was meek and nice. Mr. Nice Guy. Like, towards the end of this relationship, he'll express distraught over wanting to be different from all the other guys in my world. But like, he was a pick-me boy. There's so much more to the story though. There's so much more. And I have to tell it in chronological order for the events to really hit. So on the first date, there wasn't any red flags. I thought he was cute. He didn't make me feel weird about ordering, because sometimes men do. They make you feel really bad about what you want to order and if you get the whole damn menu, which I didn't do, but I was glad that he didn't make me feel bad. And then I let the date end without giving him a first kiss. I could tell he wanted one. I didn't let him have one. By the time date number 2 comes around, he does something where the lies to myself continue. And by this point, I had let my live stream know. And if you're there, you already know where this is going to go. If you were one of the rare 30 to 50 people who heard this story when it was fresh, there was probably like a good 4 or 5 days in between our next date. Like if we had gone out on a Sunday at like a Sunday evening, we were already planning our next date to be like a Thursday afternoon at another restaurant. But in between this time window, he starts texting me a lot more frequently, which, by the way, I don't like men who text a lot, because I feel like you text a lot if you are trying to be this person who can't actually see me. So you're trying to like build up familiarity and, just text me when I see you again. And what he also was doing was sending me selfies, which, by the way, I don't like getting man selfies from men I don't love and adore and want to see every waking minute. He was just too new in my life for me to give a damn. But I would act nice and I would heart it and I would hype him up because I'm not a devil and I actually did think he was cute. So one of these days on my way back from work, he sends me a gym moment and I'm like, oh, whatever, like, haha, cute, heart the photo. Then a few hours later, he sends me a topless mirror selfie in his underwear, and I can't remember if he was flexing or what the hell it was, but all I know is that I got a 37-year-old man sending me a topless photo and underwear photo, and I'm like, bitch, I hope he thinks he's not gonna get one back, because they really be that stupid. And I just was like, I don't love that. Just straight up, I just said it. Cue the next 7 hours of this man taking up my life and my phone, being like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. I didn't realize. And I'm tearing him a new one. I can't even remember what I said in that moment. But I just remember just extreme disapproval, but being a little tongue-in-cheek about it. And at this point, he doesn't know if I'm going to come to the next date. And it's as I'm getting ready for the next date that I'm telling my followers that this guy did this and that I was choosing to overlook it and still go on this second date. And you guys were like, girl, you know what it means. And everybody was just kind of like, at this point, everyone's here for the plot. Date 2, week 1, everyone's here for the plot. But the lies to myself continue. I'm like getting ready for this date. And as I'm getting ready on my live stream, he's like telling me how he's showing up an hour early to this place. And everybody is like, Fleeksy, that's what men do when they're older. They're like really early to things. Some people are making it a green flag. Like, oh, look at him planning and prepping. Oh, what if he has food there for you? Let's just fast forward. I get to this date late. Like, I was already supposed to be there at a certain time. I get later than the time. Like, I'm 15 minutes late. And this man has already been there for what is now like maybe an hour and almost 30 minutes. And yes, he did have food there. I think he also had a plot that I have never actually picked apart, but you guys can kind of expose what it is if you guys can see it rationally from the outside. What I'm going to assume is that he prepaid for a bunch of things to make it look like a surprise. And he also has people that he knows in there as friends. Because he did pick the restaurant. And usually when they pick the restaurant, they set the plot for it, right? So that's what he did. I'm going to assume that he paid beforehand for some champagne flutes to come to the table to act like they were gifted. I'm like, okay, that's cute. That's nice. I don't really need a lot of drinks. Anyways, I need like one drink and I'm good. And then he sends over like, I guess like, what is it? Free food for himself. The waiter comes over after giving us the free champagne and he goes to him and to the food that he already has in front of him because he ate before me. And he was like, I don't know what happened, but like for some reason I can't find your order in our system and it's just comped now. Now you're just going to get it for free. Congratulations. Like basically. So at this point, there's 2 free things like arriving at the table. Then we actually order our food. That comes not free. Okay. But then some dessert comes to the table. They're like, yeah, somebody sent this over. And I was like, what is this? Like at this point, I'm like, what's going on? Like I'm actually not even touching it for the first 5 minutes because I'm asking him questions. I'm like, what is this? Like why? What the fuck? Like it was cute, but I was very suspicious. I was like, is it because I'm wondering, like, is it somebody who knows me? Like I have to genuinely wonder at this point, like if it's somebody who recognizes me. Or if it's somebody that recognizes him, and I'm not really considering the possibility that he bought this stuff beforehand. I'll just end it. I'll skip the date. Because we need to fast forward past this. Lots of free stuff comes to the table. The waiter says it's people who know him. The date ends with him being like, look, see, it's not on the receipt. I swear I didn't tell them to come send all this stuff over. It was so confusing, but let's just assume that this man paid for everything beforehand. You know, he did it to like wow me and surprise me. And on this date, while all this little free stuff is coming in between, he tells me, and this is why I end up overlooking the mirror selfie thing in the grand scheme of things, because I was still kind of like being tight-lipped about it. But he tells me that like he talked to his mom about how he sent that photo to me and how his mom was like, oh, you lost her, you blew it, why did you do that? That was stupid. And when he's telling me about how he told his mom all that extra, I was like, do you know what type of men send mirror selfies of themselves in underwear? Sugar daddies. Men who just want to boys. Like, I was being so vocally open about how weird that was and how bad that was. And I was like, at least you took me to dinner first. But like, I can only assume that you do that to everyone. At the time, this was when Liam Payne had just passed too. So I was like, don't you know about what happened with Liam Payne? How he just got exposed for doing all of that? Like, aren't you concerned? By the way, you guys, I guess I do want to give you the spoiler alert at this point. He actually was a man who is known for sending inappropriate photos after the first date. And I wasn't the first person he did it to. And in the past, he just went and sent the whole thing. Just buck. I knew exactly what type of dude he was. But the lies to myself continue because it's been how long since I've been consensually touched? And I was like, oh, he was like he's nerdy and meek. Like McLovin in his speech almost. He's not that tall. One thing that I did find weird was that he's put 5'10" on his like profile, but like he was very much, I don't know. No, I think he put 5'8". He seemed short to me. He seemed shorter than 5'8" to me. That's a hilarious reputation to have. You know, he told me that he didn't have any social media and he acted like it was just because he never got into it and he felt like he just missed the window, which is not true, right? There's no window to miss. You can join at any point and you can blow up in weeks or months. But he probably was known for being a pee-pee sender and he was hiding his pee-pee sender reputation because he's already hiding and lying, right? I think this is a part of the story because it's a part of the plot of how fast the relationship moves. But like, basically, I make out with him that night. And so the date actually did go in his favor, but it wasn't because he wowed me with all the free stuff. It's because I was already plotting and scheming, and I had archetyped him in my brain as someone on my hit list prior to this. He just happened to make me a little bit less pissed off when he mentioned that his mother finger wagged him. But then we make another date. And I pick like these cute spots for dates because I know this city enough to like find the niche, cool, fun things to do. So I find a Halloween activity for us. And like Halloween activity, third date. At this point, like he's love bombing me and I'm love bombing him. Guess we both ain't shit. But like, it's happening over text messages. It's a lot of texting, but like at this point, the texting was so safe and bland that I was like, okay, he's just doing it to be on my phone and he's doing it because he's just offering validation and maybe he needs it too. Cause like I didn't need it at that point. So we go on the third date. On the third date, we have like the ability to kind of like cuddle on it. And yeah, like at this point, by the end of the third date, I was like, oh, that's it. Like, I want to delete my app. You're the only guy I want to see. Like, you're mine now. Delete it. And this is where the next red flag comes in. He texted me in the morning that he had already deleted the app after I let him know that I deleted it. But when I was going to delete mine, I saw that his profile was still up. And what I did was like, I did a quick screen recording just in case if I wanted to like take a screenshot at any point and like share it with other women because I don't have this guy on social media, right? So this is the last time I could like really look at his pictures in a place where the images are stored, his profile is there, you know what I mean? And when I did that, just keep that to the side because it's gonna come up later. He tells me that he already deleted the app. I let him know, that's weird because I saw your profile still up when I went to go delete mine. Yeah, this was on Hinge. He's like, oops, okay, sorry about that. Like, I didn't know how to delete it. I actually screen recorded myself hitting are you sure you want to delete your app? Yeah, go ahead, do it. Bam, done. And I was like, you do it just like this. And it's like the way I did mine. And he said that he did it, but I could never know. But that was my next red flag. He was willing to lie to me about deleting the app. And I was in peak Delulu land. Like, let that be a warning, right? If this man goes and tells you that he already deleted the app and his profile was there, like it still exists, he's on bullshit. Like, why is he leaving it there to be warm? The ultimate laziness because he wouldn't build it back up from scratch again, or like what connection is he protecting on there? See, I don't know about pausing it. Someone said that he probably paused it. Maybe, but that has a totally different connotation than deleting the app, and acting like you deleted it when you paused it is still devilish. Yeah, and I could have been like, dude, this guy's full of shit at this point. But him being meek and soft and presenting himself as this like, oh, okay, wait, we have to move forward. Okay, at this point, I actually kind of stopped remembering what the dates were like because I started letting him come around into my apartment space. When he is like being his meek, soft self, which I have to like explain his personality a little bit, he's telling me on date 4 and 5 and 6 that he's a lover boy and usually it scares people away and he's scared of scaring people away. And by date 4, 5, 6, I'm realizing that like, that's pretty much the only thing that I know about him. I do know some basic questions that I've asked men in the past, like, what's your type? What do you go after? Like, what were you like in school? But I think like what I'm really missing from this part of the story is all the pressure that I was laying on him about his job that ends up being a lie. Because this is where I start taking him inside the grocery store that he lied about working at. I was like telling him facts about this company because I just happen to know a lot. I was bringing him inside the company because I thought, oh, it's his stomping grounds. This is cute. And I was like low-key making him sweat without realizing it. So one of the days that I brought him inside the building, he was like, oh, where's the section for the beer? And I would look at him and I was like, you tell me. I didn't know that he wouldn't have known that off the top of his head. I thought that there would be like a storage system for every type of company. You know what I mean? Like there's a format. Then as he's going to pay, because I'm making him pay, he's putting in he's doing his little stuff on the self-checkout. And I was like, Are you badging yourself in? Are you giving yourself the employee discount? Oh, I thought you were just using your manager powers to get past the system. And he was like, no. But I was like, oh, that was another moment that I was unknowingly making him sweat himself, because I wasn't actually checking to see if he could badge himself in, and I wasn't actually checking to see if he was giving himself the employee discount. I thought I was being cute and making jokes. Meanwhile, I'm hitting him like, dun, dun. And I'm wondering, like, throughout all of our dates, he always had this like semi-nervous demeanor. He always seemed a little like cards to his chest, like he wasn't present in the moment. Like, oh my God, I didn't even tell you guys about the red flags. I have to go back. I have to backtrack a little bit. But things that like made him seem like he wasn't present in the moment. On the third date, like where we were going to go do the Halloween activity, I let him pick me up from my apartment. And when he's picking me up from my apartment and he's driving us to this location, first of all, he doesn't have the GPS set up to go there. Like, he doesn't stop to go put it in the GPS. He just picks me up and drives away in the general direction. When he does finally put the GPS on, I noticed that his iPhone screen is cracked to the gods. I also noticed that he drives kind of sketchy because he's not paying attention to the GPS, and he's like bumper riding. He seems like a little erratic on the road. It was scaring me. And I was telling him, hey, you're scaring me. And I was being like nice at first, but like, you know, when you get so visibly the annoyed that you can't hide it, by the fifth time, I stopped and I was like, you know what? I let it go 5 times, but you're getting really close to these cars and these bumpers. Like, you had 5 full offenses. Now I have to say something. Why are you doing that? You need to stop. Like, you need to leave 15 feet of space. That was the beginning of what would be the very end for him, because I have a whole bunch of red flags about this guy. And that one was like the very first moment where I stopped feeling enchanted by him, because this entire time he's painting himself as lover boy who's soft, who like scares people away with his love. And I'm sitting there actually feeling bad for him and believing it. But when I realized that this guy isn't safe to be in the car with, I realized he's not safe. Like, a man who is intrinsically safe isn't just selectively safe with you. They're gonna be consistently safe in all areas. And if he's not consistent, then what the is he doing? He's lying to me about what he is. Or he's actually incompetent. He just knows how to pretend to be. I wasn't his first date in a long time, actually. The tea unfolds, y'all. We're going to be here for a minute. We're going to be here for like a good 30 extra minutes. We get to this place and that third date goes good enough for him to where I decided I wanted to take him off the app, right? But by date number 4 and 5, he's still doing this bumper thing. And he also did some other things that pissed me off. On date number 4, I felt bad that he was spending so much money. So I said, you know what? Fine. We can finally do an outside, casual, like no restaurant vibe. Like, I actually feel bad. I'm going to let him do something for $0.99. And that's because I actually like the man. So what happens is that he comes to my place and we're getting ready to walk out. And I'm like, oh, wait, I have to put on my shoes. Oh, wait, I have to feed my cat. Oh, wait, I have to change my cat's water. And he's like, I'll change your cat's water. I'll feed your cat. Yeah, just put on your shoes and we can go. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, yeah, sure, I guess. Like, you can. That's nice. Like, that's sweet of you. Weird that you don't want to be a dad, but you're like stepping up for my cat. That was also a red flag. That's how I knew this man low-key wanted to be a father, because I was like, why is he stepping the in for my cat and playing daddy so quickly? Like, he's either trying to move in and show that he could be such a great cat helper, or I don't know what he was trying to do. But anyways, I didn't even look at how he fed my cat. I just trusted him, and that was so stupid, because I wake up the next day for work at the crack of dawn and I look at my cat's bowl and he served my cat his can of pate. By the way, my male cat who needs his wet food, because cats get urinary issues if they don't eat wet food. My cat went the whole night without eating because he didn't smush the food up. Like, he didn't smush the pate around in his bowl. He just served it in the shape of the can. And that pissed me the off, because one of the other appeals to him was that he was like, oh yeah, I love cats. I grew up with cats. I'm like, he doesn't even know how to feed a cat. He didn't even consider that my cat would choose to starve rather than eat a plain can of thing or whatever. And if that's how he was going to serve it, I could have did that. Why the did he do it like that? Like, boy was afraid to get the pate on his fingers and wash his hands. See, I'm a mother. I would have never. The cat looking at his log of food, like, what the F is this? He's just pretending the whole time. Yup. You're way more invested than you want to be. Thank you. He says, I'm a great storyteller. Thank you. I've thought about this one. I didn't even look at it. I find out the next morning my cat didn't eat his breakfast. And all I'm thinking about the next 3 or 4 days at work until I see this dude again is how he pissed me off with his bad driving and he pissed me off with my cat. But there was another thing that happened on that walking date. I decided to take this man to my favorite sacred park, which, by the way, I don't take nobody there. I don't want no one to go where I spend my free time to like be delusional, meditate. Sometimes I walk and cry behind my sunglasses. Like, I don't want to be known there. And it is such a little haven and there's nowhere else like it. And whenever I think about moving out of this town, I think that's the one thing I'm really going to miss is this specific park. So I take him there, and as we're walking, first of all, I'm seeing him for the first time sober and in the sunlight. I realize for the first time that his bottom row of teeth are crooked, like really bad, like piano keys, bitch. And he told me that he had braces for like 6 years on our second date, and I didn't even look at them and notice. I didn't even like ask to see his grill. So I was like, first of all, seeing his teeth in daylight for the first time. And then as we're like maybe 50 feet into our walk, there's these people playing soccer, and he's telling me like, oh, I actually used to play soccer. And he's like looking really invested in this game, kind of like how a man looks over your head at a bar to watch football. I'm like, what the fuck? Some locals, dude. Are you serious? Like, you're literally doing this right now? And then the ball doesn't even like get kicked in his actual direction, but kind of like maybe 20 feet off to the side, a little bit of a distance, to where he gets involved and he runs and he kicks the ball. And this is where I got the ultimate ick. And it's not because I saw him kick a ball, which apparently girls were laughing when I said this. They were like, oh, you got the ick because you watched him kick a ball. Well, yeah, that did look really corny, but it was giving man who watches the football over your head at the sports bar and who wasn't being present in the moment. It was just an extension of him not being present in the moment again. And then he asked, was the kick athletic? I wouldn't even know. It looked like he was trying to be. It wasn't the kick. It was him getting involved in the business of the people. And then afterwards, he was like, I think they want me to play with them. I think they're like open to me joining them. And I'm like, I literally fucking invited you on my walk. You really think I'm going to be like, yeah, go jump in the game and play with them? What the hey, yeah. So as we're going on this walk, by the way, he starts telling me like, oh, by the way, like if I ever want to watch sports or do sports related things, that would never make you mad, would it? Because my exes really didn't like when I watched sports. And I was like, well, it would depend what the context is. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, if I just go on my phone and I check the score, or like if I open it up and like watch a video. And I'm like, well, I mean, it would depend if you're like using it as an excuse to like ignore me or to like stonewall me, or if you were using it to like socially disengage, like, yeah, that would matter to me. But for the most part, no, I've had exes who have actually introduced me to athletics, and I've come to like things like March Madness and basketball because the way that they involved me in those activities with them. So like, no, I'm not mad that you would do that, but like it would really be so contextual and situational, because I've had men who like sports and it hasn't pissed me off. And there's a way to do it. You know, I hope you guys know, or I hope you guys seen somebody who did it without making you feel like a cat who was locked up in a room who had to just tolerate and endure it. This man started asking me these dumbass questions about his sports involvement and if it would piss me off. And it really at the moment just seems like it's a setup for him to try to absolve himself from being socially engaged with me because he wants to flip open his phone and watch sports. Which, by the way, no, I'm not cool with that. To me, that's a douchey thing to do. So I spend the next 3 days thinking about how this man kicked that ball, was acting like he was going to get all involved in the game. I'm thinking about his bottom row of piano teeth. I'm thinking about the way that he fed my cat, and I'm thinking about him being a bad driver. But the only one that continues to be a repetitive issue is him being a bad driver. And that's what eventually disenchants me from him. But I have my notebook too. I have my notebook over here of all the icks. I kind of want to keep telling the story in the chronological order, but I'm also wondering, but this is kind of where I start forgetting what he does that makes me mad. Let's talk about the gifts. Let's get into the gifts because you guys wanted to know what gifts was he bringing. So early on, when he was coming into my space to pick me up, or we would spend a few minutes in there and then we would go do whatever we wanted to do for the rest of the day, he would bring flowers. And then he brought a boo basket on Halloween. On Halloween, he came over, we watched scary movies inside. It's not safe out here. Even on Halloween, there was a shooting in the city. It wasn't worth going outside. So I was cool. I was cool with him coming through. But each time he's coming through, he's bringing me flowers, candy, food, chocolate. He's not empty-handed. And I really preferred it that way because I don't know about you, but a man who's not of 100% benefit to my life entering my space, it feels like they should be paying bills to even be in my air. I just don't like having a man in my space where I live. But the very last gift that he gave me, and this was before he would end up actually ghosting me. But that's further down the story, y'all. He brought a Sherpa blanket. It's kind of small. It was smallish. First of all, okay, Spotify gave me this king size Sherpa blanket, which we love. He gets me one that's kind of just one for the couch, just the chill one. And immediately I'm like, dude, I know that's not for me. I know that's for you because Spotify gave me this one and I love it. So clearly he did that for himself. By the way, he's not sleeping over my house at any point because I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a twin size bed. And I be doing that on purpose because I can't be trusted. I'm it's the only way I'm not going to have a man sleep the fuck over because they would have to actually cuddle me throughout the entire night. Yes. They would have to fit on the bed. Yes. He actually kind of did. But you would have to really be in love with me to want to sleep on that bed. You know what I'm saying? It weeds them out. I can't make space for 2 people in my home. Let's get back on track to the story. Okay, so the very last date that I would have with him, and this would also be the date where he brought the Sherpa blanket, this was the final time when I called him out for his driving and I couldn't ignore it anymore. It stopped being this thing that kind of pissed me off in between seeing him to this thing where I had completely lost my fun, cutesy side. I had become angry and I was exhibiting sides of my personality that were not sweet and calm and loving. How do I even describe this? He was this dude who would drive up to cars at red lights. There would be this car at the red light already situated, and he would drive this up to it. That close to the bumper. And I would have to be why the can't you remember 15 feet? To me, that's so basic. But I'm not saying that out loud. At this point, I'm hey, it's scaring me. I don't like that you're doing that. Don't do that. Then at this point, we're 15 feet away. Not 15, I'm sorry. We're 15 minutes away from this restaurant. And he gets off the highway and he gets to the very first red light at the highway and he does that to a car again. And I just had calmed the down. He did it right as soon as we got out of my apartment, but then he did it one more time. And I had just started calming down, but then he got me antsy again. And when I was in the car with him, he was holding my hand while he was driving and my hand was all relaxed, clasped in his. And then he did that fucking thing at the first red light at the 15-minute point. And my hand went from this, all clasped in to... And he was oh, I could feel that you didn't like it that time. Yeah, I could tell that really bothered you physically. And I was at this point, my mind's not saying no to you. My body's saying no. I was I don't like that. I'm not saying no in my head. My body is screaming no. And I'm you're not a safe driver. I'm just saying it point blank period. I'm you're not safe. But what he chooses to do is what would be the nail in his coffin for me, because he's like, I can be safe, I'll be safe. We're going down a 2-lane street that goes on for like 5 minutes where there's not really anybody to the left or the right or behind him. He's going below the speed limit and he's being unnecessarily slow, and he's announcing it like out loud. He's like, look, I'm being a slow driver. Look, I'm not being bad. I'm being a grandpa. And I'm like, because that's not the fucking issue, right? The fucking issue is that he doesn't give cars any space at red lights, and that he accelerates up to them and slows down and creeps on their ass, and that he goes ass to mouth on the road. That was the fucking issue. So when he's saying this to me, I let him say it about 5 good lines of like, oh, look at how safe I am. Look, I'm being a grandpa. Look, I'm being slow. Before I was like, that's not what I want from you. I don't need you to say this. I need you to be fucking consistent. Like, because at this point, what's going on through my mind is every time I get in a fight with this dude, is he going to start prancing around and doing the opposite of what I told him to do? And is he going to start announcing it and giving himself a pat on the back like he's fucking leaving no crumbs? Because I'll sister snap. So at this point, the conversation that I'm having with him is that is a deal breaker. Like, I can't remember verbatim what I was saying, but he's pulling into the parking lot of the restaurant and I'm telling him that is a deal breaker, and it would be easier to live without my heart racing and being scared at red lights, which would also mean like, it would be easier to live without that, which means like it would be easier to live without him. And I would be willing to, if it meant I never had to feel that way again. Because I don't feel that way in my own presence. I actually don't feel that way around most drivers, like only him. At this point, this is where he's saying that he wants to be different from all the other guys. He doesn't want to be like all the other dudes. I'm like, congratulations, you're not, you're worse. Like, I've never met a bad driver like that. You're like a uniquely bad driver. I'm like, I'm joking a little bit, but I'm being serious. And by the time we're sitting down at the restaurant, I'm like, I need you to drive like you got that thing on you. I need you to drive like you have 14 pounds of drugs that you shouldn't have on your person. Like you have warrants for arrest. Like you have broken taillights and all sorts of shit that's gonna get you pulled over. Like, I need you to be that fucking careful when I'm in the car with you, which is crazy that you have to even explain that. Because I'm sitting here like, you really don't give a fuck that like you're gonna hit someone and we're gonna be stopped in the road, getting outside the side of the car, not making it to the reservation. We're gonna be dealing with police and exchanging insurance. Like, you would really rather be doing that? Like, you really want to cut it so close to doing shit like that with me in the car? Like, you just casually just barely miss fucking up your life? Not the giant thumbs down emoji. Anyways, I was like having this conversation with him that my perception changed in this moment, and he could tell. And I was telling him that up until this point, my main appeal with him was that he made me feel like he was safe, and that he made me feel like he was someone who was safe to be with. Like, he was safe to be emotional and vulnerable and to have a future with, and to see as somebody who would be ingrained in my life. But I'm like, no, this is actually like very scary, between the cat food, the outdoor stuff, and then all the other icks that I have in my book that I haven't read back out loud yet. But this was the last moment I saw him, y'all. After that, the election happened. We texted during the election and after, and he barely texted me during the election, which was when I knew that I wasn't gonna fuck with this man really, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, the election is going in this fucking direction and you're not texting me your live reaction of shocked and scared? Okay, so let's pull out the book of what was pissing me off, and then we're gonna talk about the moment that I put him into the Facebook group. The Facebook group of the other women. But these were all of my red flags that I couldn't really put my finger on that were red flags. Well, number 1 was the way that he fed my cat. Number 2 was the asshole bumper to bumper driving. Number 3 was him not being present in the moment, which we would find out it was because he was lying out his ass about everything, and he was being a fake version of himself. So that's why he wasn't present in the moment, because he wasn't actually in his body. He was pretending to be someone else. Oh my God, this one was so weird. Okay, this one over here, this is ick number 4. The mismatched replies in texting. What I wrote down is, who the is he actually replying to? Or what the is going on with what he's saying and complaining about? It's not me, bitch. Like, I don't have a specific thing written down here, but I would say something about like my day or something that I wasn't happy about. And he would give me the most surface reply. Like, he had no depth to him. And this comes out in the next stick. Not expressing honestly, plus communicating half-truths, half-lies, stories that unfold over weeks. Kind of like his girlfriend being 7 years older, having the two teenage kids. I can't remember if they were boys or girls. And just like the general dishonesty and strangeness of it. He also had told me that he had enemies and stalkers that were not actual enemies and stalkers that we will talk about a little bit later. He also lacked his own unique vocabulary. So this was something that I found very unattractive. Oh my God, he's just repeating all of my isms and he was repeating my words. And when I was telling him stories or situations where I wanted him to like talk to me, he would just say stuff that I would say. So I thought that he lacked his own voice and his own unique vocabulary and his own unique opinion. His pretend version was worse than his actual self. Actually, his actual self is worse. The pretend version is just halfway bad. It's pretty damn bad. Oh my God, you guys, I forgot about this one. He was 37 and he bought EDC tickets. And I thought that was like, so what the hell? Because I'm sorry, most people enjoy EDC only when they're like on those drugs that make them like they make them so disoriented and hard to talk to and scary. And they're like gnawing at their face. I don't know. I don't with it. Yeah, MDMA. Yeah, you have to be on MDMA or ecstasy or coke. Sorry if you like those drugs and those events, but it's scary to be around people when you're not equally like that. And I thought, what the like, why is he trying to be in that environment, period? Because it's just so much like nudity and it's so much ass. And he was saying that he wanted to be like in a serious relationship and that he wanted stability and consistency. And it's like, I just feel like you don't do that. You don't go to those places and spaces when you're like ready to settle down. It's giving the opposite of settle down. But when I asked him why he wanted to be in that space at his grown, ripe age, he told me it's because he likes to dance. Now, I'm like, you like to dance, but you don't have a TikTok? Because that's crazy. They go hand in hand. The internet would love you. He finally does decide to show me what he looks like dancing. And the song was Mr. Brightside. And bitch, when I tell you that this man started jumping around from the left to the right, I got the ick. This was on date 3. Now, mind you, it wasn't icky enough to make me not want to be with him. But him jumping the fuck around was like, oh, I hope he never dances around me. No, we weren't on a dance floor. There was a private party that was like in this lower grassy area that we didn't pay to be in, but you could hear the music from. And he was like, okay, well, let's see. If I was dancing to a song like this in the background, I would start doing this. And he starts jumping around like 5 feet. Why was he compelled to? Because I asked him to show me what he looks like dancing. But I didn't think he was going to start jumping around. I was expecting some like Jersey Joe stuff. I'm like, that's not dancing, dude. You're like parkouring. But I didn't tell him that. I was just like, oh, wow, how nice. You guys are like, never say yes to that. Well, now you know. Can I just do a representation real quick? Can I just put the microphone down to show you guys what I witnessed? I was scared. I was so scared for my life. Like, I can't emphasize enough how much it was mostly jumping. He was on the bouncy house. That's a raver for sure. Yeah, it's kind of like a raver. Very inconvenient, though, to be doing that. Also, anyways, he said he had VIP tickets to this event. That's that one guy from the Secession show? I haven't seen it. Anyways, let's move on this list because we got more. I have fake nice. He was fake nice. I just don't know who he's performing for. It's not me because I hate that shit. Number 9. Oh my God. So every gift that he gave me was so obviously from Marshall's. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but women later were telling me that like they've worked at Marshall's before and that men who shop at Marshall's are unhinged. But what I have here for number 9 is the Marshall's madness. I was like, I do not need all of this. Ask me what I want and take notes. Because like you can spend a lot at Marshall's. And like the things that he was buying me, he could have bought me some things I actually really wanted. He was buying me like $35 gifts every time he would come over from Marshall's. Maybe it wasn't even from Marshall's though. Looking back at it, now when I found out where he actually worked, it's probably not Marshall's. Not you guys actually using this as dating advice for yourselves. He was a con man. He was a con man. That's what this is a story about. Not about a man who gave me icks, because this is where we haven't even unpacked the lies. We haven't even talked about the group. Oh my God, you guys. Okay, he did this like very subtly, but it was very obvious to me that he was openly thirsting about other women around me. But this is what he was saying. Like, okay, well, first of all, wait. Because there's this part of it where he was talking about other women thirsting about him and complimenting him in the wild. And he would tell me that they were grandmas, and he was acting hyped about it. Like, a grandma apparently told him that he looked like Chris Hemsworth, which, by the way, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. What he started doing, though, after bragging about people hitting on him, was he started hitting on Tate McRae around me. Mind you guys, Tate McRae is 19 years old. And he only started suddenly being super invested in Tate McRae when I was driving my car with him in it, and a song of hers plays on my smart display radio, and you can see the thumbnail of her. And yeah, dude, she is a cutie. What he did was be like in between seeing each other, he's like, I can't stop listening to her, like her voice. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. That was fine. But then like one day when we were pulling back into my house after that dinner where I said, hey, like, I don't think you're safe anymore. My perception of you is changing. When he was pulling back into my apartment, he was like, oh my God, my girl is on, Tate McRae. This is when I was actually like, this is when I was done. I was like, don't piss me off. Like, for real. I was like, I'm done being cute around him. Yeah, so now here was we're on the last 3 icks here. But this is openly thirsting and bragging to me about other women around me. It's gross. I hate it. WTAF. The next one was all of the texting. This man was making plans to see me about every 3 or 4 days, so there wasn't really a need to be texting me all the time. But what I put here is be a man, get a job. Funnily enough, though, I have known men who were in very high up positions who even had the time to FaceTime me while at work. When you are the boss, you do get to text rampantly and be crazy. Like that, apparently, it seems to be a thing. But he texted a lot, and it felt very jobless to me. And it was always like this conversation that was like, hi, how are you? Good, how are you? I'm great. I hope your day is going well. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that we never talked about anything real. The only time we did talk about something real was when the election happened. And even then, that was hard for him. I could tell. It's because he had to be real with me. But anyways, this is the last one. And this is actually what happened the day of his death in my life. The death number 1, I felt like he had like 3 different deaths. Because there's the death of when I thought I had lost him from this moment that I'm about to read. And then there's the death of the version of him that I found out he actually was. You know, like the lie version dies and the real one comes to life. Basically, there was a day when he was going to come over after the election, and we were going to like commiserate and like do something to like get over it, move on past it together. Like, let's have some fun. And he was like, oh, I'm feeling kind of sleepy after my long run. I'm going to go take a nap. And I was like, oh, well, hey, if you're going to take a nap, like, it's okay. We don't have to hang out today. We can hang out when you're in a better place or whatever. Like when you're not tired. And he was like, no, I got this. I'll see you at this time. So I start getting ready. This time I'm doing it on my live stream. I'm doing it with the girls. And there's this like time window when he said he was going to be at my house by. That comes and goes. And at this point, my stream knows that I was getting ready to go see him. And everybody starts waving the red flag in the chat and saying, what the fuck? He slept through the plan. This is when you guys were like, you guys weren't letting me ignore it anymore. Like, people in the chat, the boys in the chat were like, he slept through the plans and it's been how many hours? Like, the hours were ticking. I was still going live. He sleeps in past the plan for 5 hours. And yes, this whole time I'm live and reading off this ick list and I'm telling everybody the truth. I'm like, I was posting a lot of hope core, making this man look good online. Now I gotta tell y'all the truth. And people in my chat were like, as the time was going on, like, oh my God, it should be like 10 missed calls and him replanning and saying sorry. So everybody's telling me what it should be right now. And I'm just like, damn, because a part of me was like, oh, he just slept. Like, I can move on, like, from that situation. But there was also all these red flags building up. And I was already, like, over it. So it was easy for me to take the savage road. Yeah, you guys realized I was getting ghosted in real time. I didn't realize. I was ready to take the L and be like, see you next time, make the plan with him. But no, so what happens is 5 hours go by. He texts me at like 10 p.m., like a little middle school boy, all like, oh, I slept in. He doesn't even say sorry. That's what I didn't even pick up in the moment. He doesn't say sorry. He doesn't make another plan. And he wasn't frantically calling me back. And at this point, people in the chat are telling me how to respond. So I do it. I got the suggestion of saying something to the effect of, do you realize like why I think you don't care when you send me that sorry message? Like that sorry lame message. Because it was a sorry lame message. Like I don't think that was the actual text message I sent back, but that was the effect of it. And all he said was like, oh, I shouldn't have slept in. And then he did like a little annoyed face emoji. Like I was supposed to be saying sorry to him. And everybody was like, do not text that man back. Do not continue this conversation. Like drop it. Drop it like it's hot. So while I'm over here saying, hey, you guys, I got ghosted, this is where you guys are going to be confused because it's like, babe, you're the one who stopped responding to him. No, because I saw how this man acted when he sent that little underwear photo and he was texting me sorry for 7 hours. Like he wasted my time and he wasn't even sorry about it and he wasn't trying to make it up to me. So I think like he got what he wanted. I think he's passive enough and fake nice guy fronting enough to where that was his plan. Now, at this point, everybody is telling me, post this guy in the groups. And I was like, I don't know. Like I was on the fence about it because I had never experienced the power of the groups. But I do it. I posted him on a Thursday. Notice that nobody said anything on Friday. So on Friday, I start posting my tea in the comment section. And then when Monday comes, I decide to suddenly look back at it. And there was women in there saying that he was sending pee-pee photos after the first date. That he was known for that other people had made posts about him. They were also saying that he was a basic frequent offender in the chat and that a lot of them have been on dates with him and that he just usually has like a 1 date plan and then he says, I'll see you again tomorrow. And then he just never texts them and he ghosts them. I don't want to be mean, but some of the women that he was dating, they were 20 years older. And they were very much giving sugar mommy next to him. It's also he's doing all of this to because he's 37. I'm not saying they're senior citizens, but they're established, older, mature, Caucasian, blonde haired and blue-eyed women. Look at my 30-year-old Dominican Puerto Rican ass and tell me what he was doing with me besides the glitz and the glam. He did say that he felt like he was dating a celebrity with me. I never gave him my social media. I think this entire time he was stalking it and watching it. And another thing that makes me think this is because after I find out all the tea from the women, on top of him sending the pee-pee photos, I also find out that at his workplace, the woman that was stalking him, that had dropped in to visit him, was actually the ex of 2 years, who apparently always shops where he works, which by the way, he lied about where he worked to me, specifically to me. He told all these other women a true place, but he lied to me about where he worked. And at this location, she would apparently scare him and that it was scary. But what they realized over time was that he wasn't stopping it and that he was encouraging, it seemed like he was kind of he wasn't stopping it. So it's he's encouraging it, right? And also, I thought I had mentioned in my comment section that he wasn't over his ex because he would always ask me after I worked out if I did Pilates. And I'm like, babe, I walk, I run, I do high incline cardio, I do weights, I maybe do an at-home workout, but I don't identify with saying Pilates, So he kept asking me if I did Pilates and I was like, oh, he's not over her. Because what the is that question? But anyway, so the coworkers were saying he definitely enjoys the attention. He's not over her and that he's made a fool of himself and has embarrassed himself at the workplace because he does nothing to stop her. So he clearly enjoys it. Also, they were telling me that he actually does want kids. And I think when I think about the lies that he was telling me, I think about the ones where I took him inside the grocery store and he was thugging up every time I would ask him a question. Like, he wouldn't just admit to it. So like, okay. I asked him if he owned a little sweater in the color that they make the employees wear at this one thing. I was like, oh, do you have a little sweater like that? Like the one that guy's wearing? And he was like, yeah, I do. And I also realized too, like, this man was coming to my place. I was never going to his. Had I took one peek in that man's closet, I would have immediately known that he was not an employee at this location. But also too, like, there was a day when he was going to go pick up food and he said, oh, I'll just go to one of those stores that are right by where you are, the one that he was lying about working at. And there's like a very specific setup for these locations. And I thought it was weird that he didn't remember anything about how many there were and where they were in proximity to me. Because like when I worked at Abercrombie, I could tell you the top 3 largest Abercrombies in the world. Like I could tell you where all the Abercrombies were in the greater Florida area. So I thought it was weird that he didn't know where the chains were of this location. And I was like, that's strange. Like, I just thought he was incompetent. I'm like picking off my press-on nail as I get to this part of the story because it's like, it's messing me up. But yeah, he had never deserved me. At this point, I'm realizing that he got very far because not only was he lying, but I was willing to believe the lies. There were these things that were frustrating me about him where I thought that I was either going to eventually get past that mountain of awkwardness or that shaky nervousness. And it was like, oh no, I was never going to because he was staying that way on purpose to like deceive me. And I think so much of it was about getting physical access to me and maybe even seeing if he could eventually get financial access by pretending to be of a certain background or of a certain lifestyle. What I really realized about this man is that he was never safe to begin with. Our relationship never had a chance because he had never gotten rid of his exes. He was asking me throughout the relationship about my exes, like, oh, what's your relationship like with them? And I was like, all of my exes are blocked. They couldn't get to me if they tried. Like, me and him were never on the same playing field all along. Yeah, like, I also think that where he actually works at, I don't know what role he held there, but I don't think it was the title that he claimed. And I think that he was a lower paid position because I could tell that he was getting annoyed about spending money on me. By the time I had made him go into the grocery store with me to go buy alcohol, that was when he asked me if he had to start bringing his wallet. And I found out later on that that's an original experience. That I'm one of the few people that have ever been asked that question. My answer to that, by the way, was yes. Yes, you're gonna need that around me. He basically stays ghost on me for 10 days. But by this point, I had posted back in the group. I had conversations with these women. I was posting online. And on the final 10th day, I decide, you know what? I'm throwing out his blanket. I'm throwing out his little basket. Anything that he gave me, like, I'm putting it in the trash. I think he left a jacket at my house. Like, he was in such a rush to leave, he left his jacket. I threw out the jacket because I was like thinking about it. I was like, if this is a man who sends pee-pee photos to women, I don't even want to give them a pee-pee photo sending Sherpa blanket. Why would I do that to another person? No, they can go. They have the Jeffrey Dahmer energy. After that, I get the longest, craziest sorry text message from him. It was a whole paragraph of, yes, I lied to you. I'm sorry I wasted your time. I'm sorry that I lied about everything, but he says it in the most passive way. He said that he took one look at me on our very first date and that the lies just started coming out. Oh, by the way, he pathological liar and manipulator. Trying to take accountability, but not actually saying specifically what he was lying about. And it wasn't even him trying to come back. It was just him trying to cover his ass for one big old paragraph. And at this point, I had already fully knew in my head that this was a guy who was never safe to be with because, like, if he was this person who was like open and ready for a relationship, there wouldn't be any space for your ex to be coming around and harassing you. You wouldn't be the laugh of your employees. You wouldn't be making space for chaos in your world. And he was. And his entire perception of himself is based on being perceived as nice, getting attention, even if it's this fleeting type from grandmas who lie to him about looking like Chris Hemsworth, and that me and him live totally different lives and get totally different sources of fuel from the lives that we're living. And he just kind of ended up in this chaotic, messy world of ending up with whatever he just ended up with. I was an escape for him, the mediocrity that he had created for himself. His sign, he's a Leo, but I don't attribute all Leos to this. I'm not gonna give Leo Nation this slander. You're sorry that happened. It's okay. I'm okay now. I was sad though. I was wondering if I was going crazy. I was wondering if I was being insane. I was like, oh, did I go too hard? I'm not mad about it anymore. I'm very moved the fuck on. This was back in November. This ended in November. This was after the election, like when it really popped off. Also, I like popped off a press-on nail in the middle of telling the story. I wasn't sad because I had already been getting so the fuck annoyed by him and his bad driving, and I already knew that he wasn't safe. I just couldn't put my finger on it. The lies just finally made it all make sense to me that this was a man living a very chaotic life, and he was bringing his chaos to my life with his really bad driving and his unhinged comments about Tate McRae and the soccer ball kick outside, trying to join the random game and soft testing me for if I would ever call him out on his shit, which, spoiler alert, yes, I will, and gladly. But not that I'm actually trying to be with somebody that I have to do that with. I'm just not afraid to stand up for myself. But anyways, I get this long, crazy text message from him at 9 p.m. at night. When I got this message, I was like half asleep, and I had work the next day on a Saturday. Like I was going to go work a fashion show by capturing content at it. And I had set my alarm, so I was getting ready to go to bed. And my Mac, I had just updated it. And when I updated it, it toggled on the connection to my messages again. I haven't been able to see blocked messages come into my laptop for over like 8 months because of this, but I got his blocked message because, by the way, I blocked him. After he slept through the plans, by like day 2, when I realized he wasn't saying sorry, I was like, I'm not gonna make room for him to come back and say sorry at this point. This is crazy. Like, this is douchey. Send me that message. I saw his name and immediately my heart started racing and it was pumping through my chest. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I know sometimes when you wake up, your vision's a little blurry, but like, I literally was like getting dizzy and I couldn't see. And it felt like I was losing control of my body. And I had to take a picture of the message on my phone and put it into ChatGPT. And I had to ask ChatGPT, tell me what this message from this guy is saying with everything that you know. Like, can you like pick apart this message and translate it for me in a way that gets past the bullshit? Because I had told ChatGPT all about this dude at this point because I was so mystified and I couldn't put a finger to why I was feeling the way I was feeling for the longest time. So it like already knows about him. It picks the boy apart, tells me I'm being manipulated, tells me that he's not taking accountability, tells me that he's being passive, that his apology isn't genuine, and that he's hoping that I'm gonna be wowed by him acting like I'm so beautiful that he had to lie to me, which isn't normal, and that he's a pathological liar, just based off everything that it knows. What I said back to him when he sent me that long crazy sorry message, that apology isn't for me, it's for you. I don't need it and I don't forgive you. Live with that. Because this is a dude who prides himself on being perceived as nice and having a good guy image. And maybe he hoped that this would kind of bring that back to him. No. Also, by the time he had sent that to me, clearly his coworkers had told him that, or he was watching all of my content. I think he really thought that he got away with lying to me and ghosting me and that nothing was gonna happen. I really think that he thought that he rode off into the sunset. And you know, I didn't need this to get back to his workplace. And by the time I was making these videos and I was trying to tell people what happened, I was asking myself, when is it gonna be enough? Like, when is it gonna be enough content-wise? And I'm like, well, I need to get the story out. Like, I need to let people know that this fucking is out here existing and happening. Also, it's peak comedy. Also, I'm not saying his name. I'm not actually saying where he works. I'm not bringing identity to anything. It's just genuinely crazy and it's a good story. So when is it gonna be enough? When I get bored? I did have to do some processing. I think I tell the story from a way calmer place than what I was doing back in October. But if you go to my TikTok feed in October of 2024 through November, I want to say 15th, it's all him. It's all about the beginning to the end of him. Down to when I replied to his crazy sorry message. People were asking me, they were like, is there anything that you felt when you got that message? Like, was there anything that made you feel good? And I was like, yeah, you know, I felt good about the fact that everything that I thought about this dude was affirmed. But it also was kind of horrifying because up until that moment when I got that crazy sorry message, I thought that he was genuinely just incompetent. I thought that he was just a dumb dude who was just making a bunch of mistakes, who genuinely didn't know any better. But this was like, oh no, this was a calculated man making very specific decisions to cover up his lies and move through his chaos with ease. And he was enjoying the confusion and naiveness that I was bringing to this relationship. And he was benefiting off of it. We are using AI tools to keep us sane. And I did ask ChatGPT, why was I losing my control of my body over that moment? And it was telling me that, like, by that point, I had registered him as a red flag, as danger, and that my brain was actually stopping me from reading the message because it knew that I was going to be getting lied the fuck on and being manipulated. So I was like, that's crazy. I believe it. Sounds true to me. It's the fight or the flight response. And I think a lot of women get that heart racing feeling. I've never lost my vision. I was like, oh, that part was crazy. It was just the blurriness. It was the way I couldn't even read it if I wanted to on my screen. Once more, girls get ChatGPT. These guys are cooked. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, ChatGPT pretty much made it easy for me to validate all of my worst fears around this dude. Like, I was just doing a lot of gaslighting on myself, but I was kind of desperate. You know, I admit that in the very beginning, that like I wanted to be in love and to have love at this point, and that I was like having a really hard time even looking past my own desperation. You said maybe he was getting his responses from ChatGPT. That would be hilarious, actually. Who knows? Because his messages were really bad and plain and surface level, so could be. But even ChatGPT has more riveting conversations with me. But yeah, that message that I sent to him was the last thing I ever sent, and I haven't been on dating apps since. I kept my profile deleted, and I pretty much just made a bunch of TikTok content about this dude, kind of like unraveling the story and unraveling the lies that he was telling me that he didn't need to tell me. Like all the ones that he was giving me about his work. I haven't really talked about him lying about wanting to be a parent. I never put that one out on TikTok. I would kind of just consider it like a con man. And there's a lot of these dudes who like move in these ways where like they say what they need to say in the moment to get to where they want to get to. And like they don't consider it that because maybe it's easier for them to live with themselves or perceive it because you knew you were doing that from day one. You came to the relationship knowing that that's what you were going to do. That's what these guys do. I've never seen through the weeds so clearly. And a part of it is the Facebook group. The other part of it was using ChatGPT. Also, it was probably the first time in my life where I was actively dating and actively being confused that I wasn't taking that confusion to my followers. So suddenly to everybody who was following me, it just went from 0 to 100. One day I'm posting good stuff about him. The next day I'm exposing him. Like, who the f did I date? But yeah, like I think some early red flags for me, I'm so sorry, but the very horribly cracked iPhone. The way that he fed my cat, the way he could never relax around me, the way he couldn't be present with me, the teeth, the way I felt about him when I saw him sober when I was in the sunlight. I would also say the way he didn't know about the franchises in the local area that he claimed to have worked at. The way he kept bringing up his ex. I just feel like I'm going through this list because I need everybody else to know in the future what to look out for too. Was his dancing a red flag? It was a major ick. The EDC at 37 was the red flag from the jump. Also, can we talk about that for a second? Because the weekend where he ghosted me, aka election weekend, EDC was 4 days after. And he was making it this big thing about how he wanted to go with me and that if he didn't go with me, he would rather not go at all. And that he was fully prepared to just stay home. Also, like apparently his tickets were physical, so he couldn't sell them digitally. But if he could sell them digitally, I would have been willing to help him. I would have been like, hey, you guys, if anybody in the area wants these, like buy them from so-and-so. Like I would have actually availed my audience to him. I was willing to. But once it became a physical thing where they had to like meet up in person, I was like, no, thank you. Because I'm going to tell a story like this one day, right? Yeah, I could potentially be in that position. And who am I to get his money back when he's a scammer and a schemer? And, you know, the weekend comes and goes, and I just got to assume that he goes with a friend. But I was thinking, if he didn't go with me, did he bring another woman that he cared a little bit less about? But then I was thinking, he bought those tickets, or so he says, for his ex to go with his ex. So I would have been the other woman, and he would have been standing there wishing that I was her. So to me, I'm like, oh, thank God that I got out and that I never went, period. Because the feeling that he would have been having all along in the stands was, oh, so-and-so should be here. I'm doing this with the wrong person. You know what I mean? Thank God that like my spidey sense was, first of all, not enticed by EDC, but two, wasn't going to be his backup option. But anyways, the reason why we called him the golden deceiver was because I thought there was something golden retriever-like about him. He had the qualities, but ultimately when he stopped being a safe person and when he started being scary and sketchy, as a driver, I realized that's very un-golden retriever-like. Also, when he started doing the fake apologies, acting like he was like driving so slow and being a grandpa, not golden retriever-like. No, golden retrievers are obedient good boys. You said that was great wordplay. Someone else came up with it. But I don't even want to give him the hype of being a deceiver or golden anything because he's not golden. He's rusty. He's a rusty deceiver. His lies weren't even that good. They weren't even that good. It would have taken one walk into his apartment for all of those to fall apart, with the exception of the one about his stalker ex. The contenders were Sloppy Joe. Honestly, yeah. But wait, is that Sloppy or Sleepy? Because I remember we called him Sleepy Joe at one point, and that was hilarious. Oh, now I'm leaning my head back because I have another 2 hours of podcast at it. It won't take me 1 month to do this. But I thought that was so fucking crazy, y'all. That's the story. Do we have any questions now? Do we have any commentary? Let's roll it out. Let's do the final notes. Let's answer the questions of the chat. I think it's very funny how a lot of men are watching this and they're using it as material for what not to do. I feel like it's all pretty avoidable. You learned that honesty is the best policy. The thing is, I was being pretty honest myself, with the exception of not telling him where I worked and not giving him my social media. But that's because my social media is like Hannah Montana. I wasn't posting anything bad about him, and I wasn't posting about dating other people. Not until the weekend where I stopped giving a fuck about him. Was he a Cheetos supporter? He says that he wasn't. He says that he wanted to vote with me. Like, he was down to go vote with me during early voting. He actually asked me for a card of like who to vote for. Like, you know how sometimes like the Democratic Party will put out like a voting sheet for your region? He wanted mine so that he knew who to vote for. But he did tell me that he was open to dating women who are Cheetos supporters. And I thought that was very fucking suspicious. Do you think things would have gotten as far had you met in person? And if so, if this is a reason why the trend to stop using dating apps is increasing? Well, first of all, yes, this is the reason dating apps are not being used as frequently is because we're all meeting these dudes who are like benefiting from the anonymity that they have in that space and the ability to put that they're just a manager at somewhere, or like no political affiliation, like they get to morph in front of you and become whoever they think you want them to be. Would things have gotten as far if we met in person? I would have to have known him in person in some type of like setting where there's friends involved. I wouldn't know because I wouldn't have ever known his friends. I think he still would have been just as like mysterious and unknown to me. But apparently one of his coworkers was saying that he had a bad faith actor friend in his life. You guys, there was a glaring red flag that I didn't include in the beginning. In the very first date, he had admitted to me that he had two sides of him, and the other side of himself was called Chad. That should have told me everything that I needed to know right then and there. Why does a 37-year-old man have an alter ego named Chad? I need to take this bit and I need to put it in the very beginning half of the podcast, because just cut the tapes now. Because Chad's not known for anything good, ever. Chad is crazy. Yeah. And he openly said that Chad was his confident side. That's not a red flag. That's a whole ass air balloon. That's like millennial incel talk. I realized it. I was like, huh? I think everybody could stop at the first date after they hear Chad. I should have stopped after. Like, I don't know what was going on through my head. I've left situations for different spidey senses. I don't know, you guys. It was just fun. The hype of going on dates and being out dating was fun. I don't think he didn't bring up Chad a lot. Like, I had heard Chad on the first date and I didn't see him for a few dates after. I think it was probably date number 5 when I heard him bring up Chad again. And then I remembered that Chad was a thing. Also, Chad wasn't in the notes. You seem pretty self-aware. Sometimes wanting fun is enough reason to do a thing. Yeah, and you know, the thing is that I wasn't getting super connected. And I realized that I was very like cognizant of the moments when I felt like my feelings were developing. And it was only when like I was getting a little bit more physical. And that feeling and that attachment that was developing was just the kind that develops when you get physical. It was like the reason to not it's the reason that we say don't get physical early on, so that you don't like get enticed by that. But I was pretty open about that too. I was like, sometimes I think my feelings are growing, but I don't know if it's just because we're kissing. And I'm like, yeah, actually, if my feelings were only growing when I was kissing him, it's exactly because the kissing. But yeah, y'all, this is the whole podcast. This is the whole show. I have to like take off my makeup. I have to get ready for bed, prepare for work tomorrow. I am going back to work tomorrow. But then, I get the holiday back off again for New Year's. So hopefully we get more content then. Hopefully I can put this out before New Year's. And yeah, y'all, I don't even know what to say. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. If you made it to the end and you like this content and you had fun hearing the story time from me, tap the follow button to support me. It's the best way to support me for free, and leave me 5 stars. And if you're on Apple, leave me a nice little note too, because I read them all. You can also leave comments directly on my YouTube channel, which you can also follow and watch for free over there. And I say for free because no ads. Okay, yeah, that's the end of my podcast spiel. Wait, am I forgetting any? Leave 5 stars, tap the follow button, and follow me everywhere. I'm Fleeksy on everything. Bye, guys. Wait, that's the podcast then. Not bye to you. Not bye to you guys here in the Twitch chat. I need to edit it.